The Nuneaton And Bedworth Borough Plan has been in the local news recently, a few times, and it begs the questions, well, why? Short answer, because we haven't got one. Which brings about further questions. Should we have one? Well, yes. As Nuneaton And Bedworth Borough Council is the statutory planning authority for this area, they have an obligation to have one. Which again begs the question, well, why is it in the news? What actual use is it? Particularly if you've never heard of it. What you will have heard of recently, an organisation called SWORD, Save Weddington. It's a thing set up by the people up there to object to planning applications that have come about, different ones for hundreds of homes each up at the back end of Weddington. They've been campaigning to get planning applications to stop planning applications going through and to get planning applications overturned. And they never stood a chance because local council doesn't have this document in place. We don't have a borough plan. Why would it help? Not just them. It would help any area who wants to protest against a major development going on in their area. Well, why? What it actually is, it's a document that the council has to lay out that defines areas in which they will accept development. And ergo, all the other areas, they won't. So if developers come along and say, oh, we want to build 50, 100, 400, 500, 600, 1,000 or more houses on this land, and we've already got a deal in place for the land if we can get the planning permission. Can we have planning permission, please? Well, they go through the planning process. If there is a borough plan in place and they're asking for planning permission on land that is outside of the areas that are acceptable within the borough plan, and their application gets turned down, then they haven't got a leg to stand on. They will not be building on those fields. If, however, they're applying in an authority that doesn't have a borough plan, you've got to bear in mind the planning legislation was totally overturned and rewritten last year. The presumption is now on the side of the developer. So because we haven't got a borough plan laid out, developers can now build anywhere. Anywhere. I just thought I'd repeat that word just to get the significance across. They can build pretty much darn well anywhere where they can get permission of the current landowner to buy it off them. Now, they don't necessarily get planning applications permission straight away. It goes through a bit of a circus. They apply for planning. People kick up against it and say we don't want it. Councillors turn it down at planning. Oh, it's been turned down. They go to appeal, which isn't done at council. It's done in the council house, but it's an outside planning inspector that comes and makes the decisions. At appeal, they go, can we have a look at your borough plan, please? We haven't got one. You haven't got one? Oh, national presumption is therefore in favour of the developer. Housing estate goes ahead. Any further appeals against that are simply a delaying process. The fact of the matter is, with a borough plan, you can control where development goes and how big it is and what it consists of. Without a borough plan, they put what they want where they want, and there's precious little you can do about it. They still have to follow all sorts of planning guidelines for what they put where they put it, and building regulations and all the rest of it, but they can basically build housing estates on any farm that they can buy, and there's nothing that can be done about it. So hopefully you can see the significance. Bit of a history question then. Why the hell haven't we got one? Why has this borough not got a plan? Well, 5 years ago, it was a matter of importance that the Borough Council should agree to what was then known as the Regional Spatial Strategy. You had a Conservative council at the time for the 2 years, the first 2 years out of the 5 that I'm talking about, and the then Labour government was insisting that everybody should sign up to the Regional Spatial Strategies. Well, you don't want to hear of them anymore. Your Conservative council didn't sign up to it, because at the time the RSS was insisting that this area should take just about 10,000 new homes, plus, under some mechanism that they'd come up with, they were going to shunt up to another 5,000 homes from somebody else's allocation onto ours. So potentially the borough was going to occupy an extra 15,000 homes. Council didn't sign up to this, they just sidelined it for the 2 years until the next general election. At that election, yes, the Labour government was swapped for a Conservative government. Locally, your Conservative council was swapped for a Labour council. Regional spatial strategies was done away with, and locally you had to come up with a borough plan immediately. Anybody who'd already signed up to the RSS, it was simply transferred. We hadn't and didn't have one, now had Labour in. Labour had backed the regional spatial strategy. They were quite happy with this development process of up to 15,000. They were pushing for it in chamber. No problem. Hounding the Tories. Come on, get with the government. Sign up to the regional spatial strategy. But they were now in power themselves. So why didn't they bring it in the Borough Plan? Well, they couldn't because there wasn't evidence to support it. This Borough Plan is a document that the council comes up with itself based on evidence that it decides pretty much is relevant. And they can't find any method to support the numbers that were originally put forward. So, the option then, quite frankly, is to leave it. Just not have one. And that's the position we're in now. For the last 3 years, your Labour council that complains about developers doing what they want has flatly refused to implement a borough plan that would restrict where the development can go. Now, frankly, it's a bit short-sighted. This could bite them in the backside. There are areas of the town, of the borough, where they get a lot of support, which could be adversely affected by this. Looking back to the old regional spatial strategy plans, you can quite clearly see for them that the major areas of development that were laid out were all the way across the back of Weddington. Planning applications have arrived for those. Across the back of Nicholas Park, planning applications have started arriving for those, including the installation of a new roundabout to get traffic off the A47 into this new development. And you don't make road changes like that just for the size of development proposed. That's obviously going to stretch on and on and on across the back of St Nicholas Park. Other areas up at the west of Nuneaton on the Arbury Hall land, right from the back of what they call the Flowers Estate all the way up across the back of the industrial estate, across the back of Heath End Road, all the way up there, more development up there. You're looking at thousands and thousands of extra homes. That's a lot of space. There were some pockets over near Bedworth, but not that many. It was mainly around Nuneaton. Recently, your cabinet member that covers planning has again taken the item off the agenda for the next cabinet meeting. So after 5 years, 3 of which under Labour, we still don't have a borough plan. So the next time you see in the newspaper people protesting about planning applications that have been put in, feel sorry for them. Because yes, they have a democratic right to protest, but nobody's listening. Their local councillors will be in the local press saying, yes, we fully support the people, yes, they can't say, yes, we're going to vote against this, it's predetermination. But they will, it'll go through, it'll get voted against locally, because the politicians want to be seen in the papers standing up for the people that elected them. But they're not really, because in the background, they haven't put into place this document that would enable them to say, you can develop here, but you can't develop there. You can develop this type of properties. The types of properties that we would like to see developed are A, B and C, not D, E, F, G, H, I and J. At the moment, anybody that can afford to can pretty much develop anything, anywhere they want around this borough. And there's not a great deal that anybody can do about it if it's on new ground around the outside. Not a great deal at all. Thank you.